Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. This first portion of today is going to be a work session, and we're going to discuss hotel licensing follow-up. Kathy? And Paul? Chief Lawyer, you want to join the team? We can get a third chair up there, probably.
It's only fair. Yeah, we only wanted to briefly just go over after what we heard at the last meeting, which was the beginning of this month even. That we proposed some changes based on feedback that we got from you and further conversations with one of the hotel operators. And so as you requested, we modified things to take off the fee for the tier one, removed referring to having to have any kind of calculation of whether somebody's in good standing with their hotel chain brand, because apparently that's a pretty convoluted process. So just leave it as you're operating under a chain brand. Exempting the newly constructed facilities or substantially renovated facilities for the first year following issuance of the UNO. And no license fee for tier one. Establish a timeline to correct chapter 64, which is the building code violations with a tier one license, as was discussed at the last meeting. And then, as was suggested by someone from the CVB, we added definitions for bed and breakfast and short-term rental. If you have any questions for us before you invite the interested parties to speak.
I have a couple of questions. I actually have three. So, the eliminated the requirement of being in good standing with a hotel chain brand. That was eliminated because we feel that will occur.
And leave it to just be, are you operating under a chain brand? Because apparently you can be operating under a chain brand and you get your annual or whatever inspections, and there could be things that you need to fix, which could have you not at the, yep, you're in good shape. And so that could take a little time, so might as well just leave it as you're operating under a chain brand, not get into the whole business about good standing or how you're doing your inspections with your chain and all that kind of stuff.
Because we can't control the standings, so it doesn't matter.
Okay. And then the second is the term short-term rental, identified differently than a hotel or a bed and breakfast. Could you just explain a little bit, I guess, what the minimum differences would be for that type of...
That's when someone makes their dwelling unit available for short-term rental or a brief vacation. Airbnb.
Yes, okay. All right. And then the third question that I had is under program impact on facilities, that first paragraph where it says, and I want to understand this correctly, so that each hotel is inspected by the fire marshal once every year. Does this mean to say, and the Planning and Code Administration Department is made aware of any identified Chapter 4 violations? So that means the fire marshal will inspect and then will notify Planning and Code Department separately. So they're not going in with the fire marshal's office. So how will we know that individuals from the fire marshal's office are appropriately certified, if that's the right word, in adequately sort of identifying those other items? I guess I hearken it back to our conversation that we had about, when an inspector goes in on a rental and sees an item that isn't associated directly with that individual's purpose of inspection, and seeing something that may have been done, some time ago, that may not meet current requirements or may be outside of their area of expertise of identification. I'm just curious how you're going to sort of marry the two or get that fire marshal's inspection individual up to full speed, so to speak, on those things that they're not, directly there and identified and credentialed to inspect.
I can take that. Right. So we already work closely together now on a number of subjects on different things, and the fire marshal's office as well as the police department contact our office whenever something just doesn't appear to be correct. So they go ahead and call us. They might not know the code-specific things, but you all might not know the code-specific things as well, but you'll be like, that doesn't look like right and probably is violating the code. I need to call the code office, so then they would contact us. It doesn't mean they're certified to do those particular things, but they know what things are and are not within the code guidelines.
I just have some concern of how far-reaching that could become. And, you know, when we did the other one, if you recall, you gave us that list and said, these are the things we're gonna look at. Like, I don't feel like I don't feel like there's these are the things that, the other things they may look at. You know, and so, you know, they may identify one thing and I'm just curious how that's gonna work if it's not identified, for those owners that could be impacted, what those other things could be.
We can certainly come up with a list, that's not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be good to understand.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a case of going out there and measuring, do they have enough width here or there? It's probably more a case of, clearly that plumbing's not working in that
Okay.
room, or the HVA system in that room is not working. It'd be more that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I'm getting at is, you know, just how far or how in-depth, you know, outside of their general realm of inspection, you know, could an owner expect them to get?
But every hotel would have an initial inspection by code to begin with, correct? No.
We're proposing that for B&Bs and short-term rentals, which are just in somebody's house.
But not your larger hotel
Right.
entities. Like I said, I'd just like to understand what that is before we send them off with those marching orders to, hey, check these other 10 things, or you know, keep your eye open for these other X number.
So B&B and an Airbnb would have a initial inspection.
Right, to make sure that they
No matter
have the
what.
code, right.
Okay.
We currently don't have any B&Bs in the city. We used to in the past.
Yeah.
But we do know we have a handful, at least a handful of Airbnb, based on the Airbnb website.
Yeah.
I have two questions. How would a tier 3 hotel ever get into tier 1 if they're independent of any chained brand? And I use the example of Turf Valley going down 70. So it's a very nice hotel and probably well-maintained by the outside and, you know, when I've been there. But if something like that was to ever come to Hagerstown, because they are independent of a chained brand, they could never be a tier 1 hotel. That's one concern that I had. And my other concern is, if we regulate something like this, are we limiting ourselves because it's so easy to go to the county and go to a hotel if we're going to impose some of these fees? Are we going to lose out on downtown, you know, visitors because they're going to be staying in the county and possibly going to chain restaurants or to the mall and not shopping at our downtown? So I just want to make sure that we're not, you know, putting too much regulation when it's really easy to go to the county and go to a hotel that doesn't have these regulations. Just some concerns that I have.
Okay, anything else you guys want to add?
I think so.
All right, we're going to open up the public comments. Thank you. All right, Dan Spedden, looks like you're up first.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Dan Spedden, President of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. A year and a half ago, I thought this was very necessary, and in the last year and a half, my thinking has evolved a little differently. What I'd like to do is to go back to when the Garden Plaza started to melt down, and we first brought it to the city's attention because of complaints from our clients. the city very successfully employed every authority that it had through the police, through the health department, through code enforcement, through the fire marshal's office, and successfully shut the place down. And then it emerged with a new owner, and it's by all observations on the mend. So in some respects, we won. And do we really need this now? What I think, if you implement this, you won't be able to control the perception that it's an added layer of oversight and bureaucracy. I've seen the proposal come down in scale a lot, but I still think the perception would be impossible to control. So I was going to recommend that the always available management decision to do nothing, because now we know what resources and authorities we have. The next time a hotel is in the meltdown phase, we'll know how to attack it more quickly, and we'll be even more successful at bringing it back into compliance. I also wanted to point out, Shelley, to your point, in Boonesboro, the most expensive address in the county in the way of lodging would be a Tier 3 under this proposal, and that's a little bit of an insult to a quality operation like that. And if you look at the architecture we have in this city, and if you believe in the city's renaissance, there's going to be a lot of that. We'll have a culture of that in our future, and we're going to want to embrace it and not lay an extra layer of inspection and cost upon it. And that's all I have to say, unless you have any questions for me.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Dan.
Mr. Patel?
Thank you.
Oh,
The Maryland Hotel and Lodging Association's Executive Director, Amy Royer, sent you some comments, and she was afraid they didn't come through.
They did.
Okay.
Yeah,
I printed them and brought them just in case. I promised her I would.
thank
And they
you.
did come
And
to
it
the
came
email,
through.
by the way.
Okay, thank you.
Raj Patel?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the council.
Good evening.
My name is Raj Patel.
Sure.
I am the new owner.
Can I take
We
you
took
off of the list then?
We took over the Garden Plaza a few weeks ago and made leaps and bounds to that hotel. What I'm trying to tell you guys that this is unnecessary. It was created by the person who leased the property 3 years ago. He basically take it down the tubes. He pocketed over $500,000 from the county, the state, and the actual owners of that particular building. There's documents in courts that support that. He owed rent to the owners, $235,000 in rent. The judge was basically scratching his head. Why did it take you so long to come to the court? But the way the contract was written, he couldn't get out. And I'm at the bottom of that Tier 3 right now. We're trying to get a franchise in, working with the city and code enforcement people to try to do something, the other building in the back. So that's one of the things is, when you talk about Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3, I would be in Tier 3 for that particular property. And you're right. The fees would increase. Then they'll go to the county instead of the city. I rescued 3 hotels in this town. I almost had the 4th one, but missed out on it. I rescued the Wesley Inn, which is now currently the Days Inn. I've been paying the property taxes, the occupancy taxes for county and the city. I rescued the Super 8, which is right across. We have a HUD sheet that's basically a settlement sheet that he actually borrowed money from his mom to the last year that was in operations. And then now I bought the Garden Plaza. We have an employee that's going to testify to you that we are trying to get the groups back in. We're trying to get the veterans back in. All the softball people we're trying to get back in. But if you guys implement this, I'm the lowest guy on the thing. I'm going to pay the heaviest. Mr. Bowman is not going to pay a nickel. If the milk at Walmart costs $1.43, he should be paying $1.43 for his milk as well. And I'm very much against this thing. We also have an inspection that we do for each property that I have. We do it on an annual basis. They come over there, they check the sprinkler system, they fire up the pumps, they do the sound test, the strobe lights, everything. And we do that annually for each of our properties to make sure everything is safe. And this particular things that is being proposed, it was just because of the Garden Plaza. It was in a meltdown stage. If you have another hotel in the meltdown stage, let me know. I'll try to bail it out. But I'm the guy who's gonna pay the most out of these things because I own 3 hotels in town. I have a 4th one on the outside of town. I'm a hotelier. And Mr. Mayor, I promise you that Garden Plaza will be the shining star again.
Oh, I don't doubt that. Bill?
Thank you, Mayor Brucci and members of the council. My name is William C. Wantz, practicing attorney here in Hagerstown. In reviewing this over the last several days with Mr. Patel, I've made a few observations that may be useful in considering this proposal or modifying it somewhat. I was very moved by Emily's comments at the workshop about providing housing for people in lieu of going to a default situation of no available housing. That figures into the rear portion of the property that has recently been acquired. We had a nice, productive meeting with Kathy Moore and Steve Bachmiller this afternoon, and I think we're going to be coming back with some proposals relating to that. I view Mr. Patel as part of the solution to a problem that the city is certainly invested in and committed to resolving. One of the things that came up in my discussions with Mr. Patel is some investors in the hospitality business who manage these local facilities already perform, as Mr. Patel said, extensive annual fire inspections through third-party consultants and providers. Mr. Patel happens to use a CCF Fire Protection out of Kearneysville, West Virginia, who performs what appears to be a very thorough inspection. If you would determine to go forward with this, there certainly should be some consideration of avoiding unnecessary duplication of services, having the town's resources under Steve, my friend Steve Lohr's leadership, taking on these responsibilities may prove to be unnecessary, at least for those who have opted for an independent third-party inspection. These inspections appear to be quite thorough and quite effective. Some of these are required by franchises. Some of these may be in order to gain more favorable insurance coverage or rates. But these are a part of the industry that I've learned about recently. Also, I've learned that in some of these facilities that are subject to franchise agreements, these additional costs passed on as fees for the licensing program may become a burden that is reflected in the competitive rates, the room rates for these facilities, as Shelley said a few moments ago. This may mean that someone who was considering staying in a facility on the dual highway may go someplace outside the city limits, just based on internet comparative room rate studies. I'm told that it has to be that way. These can't be put on a, $100 a night plus, because the computer systems that are used by some of these franchisors dictate where these fees go. So this is not the type of fee or tax that may be considered in addition to the basic room rate. That creates a competitive limitation, and in today's internet reservation proliferation, it's very clear that these rates play an important part in where people choose to stay and promote tourism in our community. Finally, there may be those investors who prefer not to affiliate with a chain broker. I, for one, know that there are advantages in the real estate brokerage business to being an independent, not being a franchise broker. And I think the same experience that someone in the real estate brokerage business would have would probably apply to the entrepreneurial decision of whether to affiliate with a franchise or not. It seems that distinguishing the liability of an investor based on that business decision would be contrary to the best interest of free enterprise.
Any questions for Mr. Wants?
There's,
Go ahead.
there's one more thing that I'd like to add about, servicing, inspecting the HVAC, the showers and the faucets and things like that. Believe me, in 18 years, the guest will tell you in the morning
don't,
or
right,
5 minutes
exactly.
after check-in
Yeah.
if it's working or not. So you really
understand.
don't need the inspection. Our TripAdvisor score was at 2 when we took over the Garden Plaza. Now it's at 3.5. It's a big jump.
Yeah.
We cleaned up the property. That's what we're doing. And we're here to stay. And I assure you, all the members, that we will do the right thing. And we will work with the fire department. And I know there's violations out there. I had shown Kathy how much money I had put down to start that work going, and we're committed to it.
They would welcome your support in lieu of an additional tier of regulation.
All right, thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Karen Kanzler.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Karen Kanzler, and I am an employee for the Garden Plaza for Mr. Patel. I'm actually here today because I have been with the property for 20 years. I actually worked for the original owner, which was Mr. Frank Turner. And I just want everybody to know, I've been there in its peak, and I've been there in its lowest. And since Raj has taken the property over within the last month, the progress that I have seen tells me that we are going to be back to where we was once again. I mean, I've actually done the cells there for years, so I am currently working on bringing everybody back, which it's already in the making. I mean, I got pretty much a full house this weekend. So I just want everybody to see that he is trying to bring that place back to where it was once before.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. Rob?
Good evening. Rob Ferree, and I'm here representing the Bowman Group. And first of all, I just wanted to say to y'all, I know we've said it to you before, but thanks for listening. Thanks for arranging this day. We've written to you before in our opposition to the policy or the program in general. Appreciate you listening to us. We shared some of the stringent requirements that the change make you go through, and it was recognized in the revisions. But still, in general and principle, we're against the program. And it's for a lot of the reasons you've already heard. But just to say it again, we're not only competing with other states, we're competing with hotels in the county. Now, Don's in a lucky position. He's got hotels in the county and in the city. And of course, in the city, we're subject to the city tax, and that's a whole different issue. I know that, but we realize that's the fact of life. But that comes right off the bottom line, and there's really no one who comes to the Homewood Suites in the city and says, I'm here because your hotel's located in the city. So we're dealing with that, and then this program would just, not that it would, the way it's written, it wouldn't apply to us right now, but it's just in principle it is. And then some other things that are not very business friendly. We're concerned about independence. At one time, we were considering taking one of our hotels independent. Nothing would change. The quality would stay the same. The inspections would stay the same, but it would not have a chain. And that would drop us to a lower tier the way this program's written. And then lastly, kind of has a lot of invested interest in the downtown Hagerstown area. We like to see some B&B downtown. We'd like to see some boutique hotels downtown. And this policy really discourages that. We want to make it welcoming for those people that come downtown and start something that'll probably begin the beginning of a trend. So now we realize the fire marshal, with all the responsibilities he has, is understaffed, and it's hard to get these inspections done. And probably more inspections would have maybe helped the issue that we're dealing with. Is there some ways we can get the fire marshal some additional help? And I just throw this out as an idea. I've talked to the chief. He doesn't think it's a very practical idea. But in the county, we get inspected by the state fire marshal.
Yeah, there's one state fire marshal for 3 counties in western Maryland.
Maybe there should be more.
Well, that's a state, sure. Go ahead, have the state hire some more state fire marshals. That'd be great, Rob.
Well, and it's something you should be pushing too. You know, the state's got a bigger budget than the city has.
Yeah, well,
Let's try to get some more help. The county probably, we need more help from the state fire marshal and other issues. I don't want to delete from the subject here.
Right.
Bill
But-
Perkner, as the mayor, will tell you, preached that for all the decades that he was either mayor or council member. Anybody who's in the fire service will tell you his thoughts about the fire marshal situation.
Right.
And it never got us anywhere.
Well, like I
Matter of
said,
fact,
the
he
state.
wanted to get rid of our fire marshal, thereby forcing the state.
Yeah,
to do the
I can
work.
see that. Well, hey, just for the record, the state fire marshal comes to the hotels in the county and does an inspection. I don't know why you couldn't walk across the street and do another one.
I understand. Thank you,
Not,
Rob.
it's in the state.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Rob.
Marshall Waters?
Good evening, it's Marcia Waters.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Quite all
It
right.
is.
You bought my farm. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here for 2 reasons, really. One on a very personal level, and also just to speak on behalf of Mr. Patel. I have known him and been his legal representative. I am a licensed practicing attorney in Maryland. I've represented him for over 20 years and have been with him in all of his hotel takeovers, acquisitions, and turnarounds. He's a good guy. So he's a good businessman, and he cares about our community. He's raised his own sons here. Both of my oldest son and his youngest son graduated from North High together. He has a vested interest in making sure things go well in this area. He's not someone who's come in from the outside and just wants to make money and run. So if this whole thing got started, because I keep hearing over and over and over again, this all started because of Garden Plaza. Your solution's already in front of you. It, just like the other gentleman said, you've already seen in just the month he's been there, huge turnarounds, the increase in the TripAdvisor, he's been working with Doug DeHaven from day one. Raj and I went down and met with Doug DeHaven months and months before the acquisition even became, a purchase and sale agreement, which we walked through every step of that to make sure things were going to be compliant. Things could be compliant. You didn't want to buy it if you couldn't get it compliant, if it wasn't a feasible purchase and a turnaround. And so it will be a wonderful grand hotel again. Give him a little bit of time. All of this additional regulation is simply not necessary if it's all really based on Garden Plaza. But in addition to that, I hear all of these other persons speaking here tonight, and their points are very well made. Nobody wants to come and put in more business where there's so much overwhelming regulation that just makes it look, hey, I'll just go outside the city. I see it constantly. My husband's own business, White Tiger, in the middle of the city. He's considering right now moving it outside of the city when his lease is up because of all of the code enforcement when he wanted to expand. He wanted to expand his business a few years back, and he couldn't do it because of the code and et cetera, and the slamming doors he gets when he was trying to talk with them about how to expand in the building he's already in. You guys really need to look at working with businesses instead of just more regulation and more fees that increase costs and increase costs. It's overwhelming for smaller business owners. And, Raj is a small local business owner too. The Bowmans, they're local, small, business owners in our community. Let's not crush and kill us. The other personal note I want to tell you about is the lack of affordable housing in this area. I sat on the Board of Social Services for 8 years back in the beginning of the aughts. And one of the things that some of these hotels I saw in the newspaper, and I don't want to get the quote wrong, and sorry to quote the Herald Mail, I know they sometimes get it wrong too. But the reason I'm here is I saw that on the October 19th said that this meeting was happening, that the proposed regulations are trying to, and I quote, deter extended stay hotels from being treated as permanent housing. I mean, nobody wants to live in a hotel, but sometimes that's some people's only choice. And if you guys pass regulations like this and Tier 3 hotels, that's the only ones they can afford. Someone who can already not afford the rent in the area. You think they're going to afford a hotel, a nightly billed hotel? No, they need these extended stay places, at least in the interim of getting from where they apply for public housing. My own husband's parents right now, thank God for Raj Patel, because they would be living in a cardboard box. On May 15th, they got an eviction notice from their own home they'd been living in, and they applied and they called Commission on Aging. I called Commission on Aging, never got a call back. We called CAC, we put in the applications to the Hagerstown Public Housing Authority. If I can't even find housing for my own in-laws, disabled veteran, Marine, broke his back in Guam, fixed income. His wife, my mother-in-law, just got over breast cancer, CNA her whole life. All they get is Social Security. They should qualify for public housing. We keep being told they do, but they're on a wait list. So where are they supposed to live in the meantime? This is where this gap of these longer stay hotels come in. But these people can't afford the Hilton, okay? I've invited them to stay with us, but some people are proud too. So they need places like this to stay. And these kind of regulations that don't work with the hotel industry and just crush them instead, please don't do it, because you're going to put more people like them on the streets, okay? Don't do it, please. I'm begging you to rethink this idea. This is not the way. The paper also said you're looking for it's a collaborative effort between city planning, code staff, and the fire department. How about you turn it into a collaborative effort to, instead of deter this type of housing and ideas, find a way to turn that tower in the back of his new hotel that he just purchased, turn it into something that's great for very low, desperate income people that have no other place to go. And the public housing in Hagerstown, as you know, is bursting at the seams and has 6-8 month wait lists. Do something better. Think of a better way to solve this, please.
Thank you, Marcy. B. Patel?
I currently own the Bay Mountain and Suite, and I have spent extended money to renovate, including changing the elevators, doing remodeling the hotel rooms. But it is very expensive to really do this all, and it takes so much time to pay that back. So sometimes when there are difficulties in hotel industries, I think I support this situation when we need some help. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Another B. Patel.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jay Rathod, and I'm the management from Quality Inn and Suites in the city. Even Raj is my business competitor, but since last month, I must say that the improvement, the visibility of the property, you must walk, see through the night. You can see the lights up there. Before it was like. You can see the difference as TripAdvisor scores goes up 3.5. I have 4.5, but it's how the score goes up. Even 0.1, it takes tough decisions to make it. And you have to change the whole property. And this, if you implement this code, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna put more cost on everyone's, and on especially me and him. Other owners has to pay more of it. So please, if you can consider this and think about it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Fine.
Jay,
I think that was him. Yeah.
oh, okay, oh, all right, okay, all right. Millan?
I just want to tell you what kind of tier 1, 2, and 3, we do the inspection over our daily basis, and we have our own team, and we are making sure that the property is up to standard and like that. So I just want to just reconsider all the tier plan, and we have our own third party. They always do our very well inspection and that stuff, so just please consider something.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill, you're on here again, do you need to test, okay. Anyone who is here who did not sign up but wishes to speak, please step forward. Just name and address.
Gary Gill, 951 Dual Highway. I own the property next door to Raj. I came out here in the middle of May, bad renters, and I'm next to the parking lot. In that parking lot, I don't know if you folks know it, I don't know how to say it delicately, but full of tweakers. I'd see packages of dope everywhere, prostitution in the parking lot half a dozen times a day. I am not kidding you. Since I came back here in July, August, it's cleaned up. That's the only thing I got to say. He did a heck of a job. It was just full of people hanging out, making deals.
Oh, I know.
And it's not that way anymore. So that's all I got to say.
Thank
Sorry
you.
for my appearance. I've been working all day.
No, you're a working man, that's great. Okay, thanks for coming in. Anybody else, one more time? Okay, we'll close public discussion. If there's nothing else this evening on this issue, I suggest we have another work session scheduled for maybe the 13th of November and give us plenty of time to digest what was said, plus make sure we have plenty of time on the agenda to discuss it. So, sure, go ahead, yeah.
Most of the people that spoke today spoke about the fees, and as a business owner, I understand tacking on more fees affects your business greatly. If the fees were not there, and we were just talking about an inspection schedule in this fashion, would you still feel the same way, that it's over-regulation, or is the bottom line, the fees are the biggest issue?
You can inspect anytime you like. They have been doing that in the past. They just come up and show up. Last time I had inspection at Days Inn, I think 6 or 7 fire people came in, went through all the rooms. That's fine. We don't have any issues with that.
Okay.
The idea is to deter some business to get good business. And as our neighbors said, we did the same thing. We're also inspecting our own properties through a third party. They do a diligent job. It costs hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I make sure the sprinklers are working, the elevator recalls are working, the strobe lights are working, the alarms are actually buzzing when it's supposed to be buzzing, the pull station are buzzing. They have all the rights to come in anytime they want, and they know that. For the microtel, after 18 years, I had one inspection from the fire marshal, state fire marshal. He's saying, Raj, your exit lights looks a little dim. I was like, okay, give me about a few days. 2 days later, I ordered from HD Supply, changed all the lights. He came, signed off on it. That's about it. It's not the inspection that, the fees that we're worried about, it's we do our own stuff. Like I said before, even Doug DeHaven knows it. Somebody will take a battery out. We go back and it chirps, so we put the battery back in. My Garden Plaza is a non-smoking hotel, yet people still smoking. We do everything to deter these kind of things. We take IDs, we take deposits, we take car information. The idea is to deter the wrong people destroying your property.
Correct.
Thank you.
We have
Thank
a sophisticated camera system. I showed you the Kathy at the Days Inn and the Super 8. Every time the federal union gets brought, they come look at our stuff. Like, hey, man, you got more cameras than the bank next door. I wanted to see you come in, I want you to stay, and I want to see you leave. And those are the things that we're making the progress. It's just more of a headache. They're more than welcome to come anytime they like. But like I said, Walmart milk is $1.43. It should be $1.43 all the way around then. I shouldn't be hit all the time on either him or these guys. It's hard to go from tier 1 to tier 2, tier 3. I mean, what is this nonsense? We're trying to run a business and make the city proud of us.
Yep. Thank you, Raj.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Chief, could you come back up real quick? There's 2 points that I'd like to make in the first involved question. And so in the memo, it states, below is the impact on the facility under the proposed total license program. Currently, with no program in place, each hotel is inspected by the fire marshal once every year. And then you let PCAD know if there's any, indirectly associated issues. So, and I know folks want to talk about the Garden Plaza as sort of this lightning rod of the reason we're doing this, and let's not kid ourselves. We hear from the public on a fairly regular basis that there are hotels around this county that operate and see its ebbs and flows, its ups and downs of stay of individuals, and it doesn't just happen in the hotels in the city. And so that's just the reality and nature of where we are. And so my question is, for me, Garden Plaza, while it may be the lightning rod of the issue, if we're inspecting already in this same manner once a year, as this memo states, like how do we get to that point then, if it's being inspected already once a year?
I think I understand your question, Councilmember. Get to what point? Where we interact with codes?
Where you see a hotel operating in a manner that's just not appropriate in the community.
Like all things, code enforcement is a very complex issue. The deputy fire marshals, the fire marshal's office is focused primarily on the national fire codes. The premier ones being life safety code, the sprinkler codes, and a variety of others that can crisscross things. So in the case of the Garden Plaza, we also had just failed to be able to enforce and educate staff on even properly calling 911 when a fire was reported. And you may remember, I think we reported to this group last year.
Yeah, I
that
remember
we
the
had two
incident.
fires, right? Mm-hmm. So, make no mistake, notwithstanding free enterprise, economic development, there is no stronger supporters for both in the city of Hagerstown and Washington County than your fire chief and the employees of the Hagerstown Fire Department. But our focus is always on the health, safety, and welfare of our residents and visitors. And hotels, motels, Airbnbs, residential places of any type are places where people sleep. That's when they're the most vulnerable. So when any of the features of fire protection, exit pathways, self-closing hardware, sprinklers, enunciation of fire alarm, the ability to notify the fire department in a timely fashion becomes more and more serious, and it's like lining up holes in Swiss cheese. Sooner or later, those holes line up if you have a variety of those issues. Now, in this particular example, maybe there was some mission creep because of the crime that occurred in and around that particular hotel. Mm-hmm. They probably weren't unrelated, and we were full court press to help correct that and participate in the way that the fire department could. We Whether this ordinance passes or not will not reduce the frequency or the quality of the inspections that the fire department does in hotels and motels.
So
We will be in there every year.
So if we don't pass this, your office is still going to inspect each of these establishments at least once a year.
Absolutely.
You are going to pass on information of indirectly associated things that you view to the appropriate other city departments. And we still have the mechanisms in place to apply just as much enforcement authority.
Yes. So absolutely, that occurs daily, interaction between Kathy and Paul's office, Doug and the deputy fire marshals. I can say that with great confidence. They're constantly working on this, but this is even more complex now. Remember, we talked about how long, somewhere in one of these phases of proposals, how long has it been since the hotel or motel underwent a major renovation? What version of the codes apply? Are they retroactive in all forms? So we've been kind of around the barn about this thing where, you know, what we will do is enforce annually an inspection and relay appropriate other things. Remember, we, with the help of the HPD, you know, saw children that were living in this place, actually a school bus stopped there. And people that had all their worldly belongings, none of that comes under the fire code. And we need enforcement authority power outside of the national fire codes to deal with those kind of things, which was our belief, mayor and council wanted done.
So you would go inspect every year, and if during the inspection, Doug or his people witness other violations that may be life-threatening or unsanitary, let's say that too, then he comes back and tells PCAD, and you guys can go inspect anyway.
Yes.
That authority already exists. That's what you're going to do whether this thing gets passed or not.
Right.
Yes.
And so that then brings up, I guess, my second point. I appreciate that answer and that reassurance, but it brings up my second point, and this is a concern I've expressed, and I appreciate the comments about long-term stay, but you know, I can remember being a caseworker, and I've said this before, when I guess there was the single floor or two floor parts of the old Venice Inn, so that tells you how long ago I was a caseworker, and there were families living in there, and it was not appropriate. It was not, I mean, having, you know, placing kitchen facilities, makeshift kitchen facilities in hotel rooms. Hotels, simply the rooms aren't designed for that. They certainly aren't designed for the safety of it. Owners that fail to pay taxes and utility bills, you know, have an impact on you know, the integrity of that system. They're certainly not designed to handle that type of waste production, you know, within those individual rooms. And so the long-term stay for me, I think is more a function of the design and capability of the place rather than, you know, the technical aspects of the place itself, you know, because if it's not, you know, there could be a different individual in there, you know, every other night, you know, 365 days a year. But you know, when we hear that, you know, that there are permanent bus stop locations, you know, at some of the locations, I mean, that's not. I don't think that's the intent of that type of operation. And at that point, it becomes a different type of residential structure, and should certainly be treated as so. We shouldn't have these ordinances in effect, and I say this over and over, that we apply to single-family homes, that we apply to rentals, and then not apply them to buildings that then turn into functioning like those other types of residential structures that do operate in that manner, and then simply say, well, it's a different animal, so, you know, we're gonna simply, you know, turn our heads and treat it as such, and then all sort of act shocked and surprised when private entities, nonprofit entities, place individuals, you know, in locations in this manner, and then, you know, are shut off because of non-utility payment, are shut down because of fire code violations, and then the city somehow, you know, gets the black eye, so to speak, because we want to make sure that we have a solvent utility fund. We want to make sure that the fire exits and apparatus are working appropriately. And so that's the consternation that I have in a hotel being permitted to operate, you know, like a long stay, you know, lease oriented residential structure.
Kathy, you want to say something?
Yeah, if we did not do this program, it's true, we would have the fire marshal's inspection every year, and if they identified any kind of obvious building code problems, they would contact us. What would not happen is a capability to say, this hotel is not set up for extended stay. You should not have people living in here for months.
And that's not okay for me.
If that's not a concern for the council, that's okay. Just letting you know, there's nothing
That's a
right now
complete concern for
on
me.
code. In any of our codes, it talks about extended stay versus short-term stay, and what should an extended stay, you know, like the Homewood Suites, it's designed for it. But some of these other hotels where it's just basically a room and a bathroom, they're not designed for a family to live in there and try to figure out how to cook meals and how to clean things, dishes in the bathroom. That was part of the concern that we were trying to address with all
And a
this.
person staying in a room next to that occurring should not be staying, you know, without the awareness, frankly, that makeshift type of living arrangement is going on, and that it then opens them up to the possibility of one of the fire incidents occurring, you know, without that type of awareness that type of activity is going on, that could create, unfortunately, that type of situation.
It sounds like we have some things to discuss again, so we'll put it on the agenda in a work session and have a lengthy discussion, Raj. And we'll get back at it 13th of November. Okay? Thank you all very much.
Good evening. I will call the 54th regular session of the Mayor and Council to order in the absence of the mayor. And in the absence of the mayor, the council elects a chair for the remainder of the meeting. So I'll call for a motion to elect a chair.
So moved. I liked Lou.
That's fine. And a second.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? No opposition. So Councilmember Metzner, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. The mayor sends his regrets. He was here for our 6 o'clock work session, but unfortunately another meeting was called that involves state representatives and a number of elected officials, and involves the city also, so he needed to go to that and asked that I chair the meeting, which I will do. So we will start with the invocation and a pledge to the flag. The invocation with Councilmember Emily Keller. Please rise.
We gather to make decisions for our community. May we use only our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Announcements. We will be following the rules and procedures adopted December 20th, 2016. Please silence your cell phones. Excuse me. All correspondence for distribution to elected officials should be provided to the city clerk and should include a copy for the city clerk for inclusion in the official record. Meeting schedule will be next Tuesday, the 6th, the 13th, and the 20th. We will have work sessions at 4. And Tuesday, November 27th, we will have a regular session at 7 p.m. And we will start the meeting with a proclamation, if I could call Carolyn Brooks up. This is good. I really think the reason the mayor didn't make it tonight is I think this is the longest proclamation we've ever had. And as you're going to see, I'm going to do a little abbreviated portion of it if you don't mind. So I'm going to read the abbreviated portion of this proclamation. Whereas the next generation will be stewards of our communities, and whereas the character of the nation is only as strong as the character of its individual citizens, and whereas Character Counts provides a framework of universal values that transcend cultural, religious, political, and socioeconomic values through the 6 pillars of character: trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. And whereas these pillars of character can be learned and modeled by the leaders of our community to improve interactions in our society, whereas we count on our partners to help provide strong and constructive guidance for our citizens through Character Counts in our homes, schools, religious institutions, civics groups, places of business, and community gathering places. And whereas the character and conduct of our youth reflect the character and conduct of society, therefore every adult has the responsibility to teach and model the core values, and every social institution has the responsibility to promote the development of good character. Now therefore be it resolved with the support of the City Council, the Mayor Robert Brucci, do hereby proclaim and recognize October 21, 27, 2018 to be Character Counts Week, and urge all city employees to seek out opportunities to incorporate these core principles into their work and parks and recreation activities, child care programs, community events, and I encourage all citizens, corporate and individual, to model these traits of good character and an ongoing commitment to promote character development and proper behavior throughout our community. Signed by Robert Brucci, Mayor. I might add that perhaps we could find a way to photostat this and send this to our President and Congress. And I think they could use it. Carolyn, would you like to say something, please?
We've been involved with Character Counts since 1999, and I continue to appreciate the support of the community. When I come in this room, I like, we've got the pillars on on the pillars in the city. Excuse me. We continue to offer resources to the community. We continue to offer scholarships for 4 graduating students each year. And we have a small but a mighty group, and I agree with your comment about we need to be kind and send the message all the way to the top. So it'll come down.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you blink like
And we have appointments tonight. The only appointment tonight is Terry Wishard to the Hagerstown Housing Authority Board of Commissioners, whose term is to expire August 31, 2023. This particular appointment is the mayor's appointment and does not require a vote by council to confirm it. Is that correct, Donna? I don't have any sign-up sheet for citizen comments. If there's anybody in the audience who is not signed up who would like to comment, now would be your opportunity. Going, gone. Okay. We'll move on then to minutes. I hear a motion to accept them. Oh, excuse me. I sort of missed that. Mayor and council comments. Let's start with Shelley.
I don't have anything tonight, Mr. Metzner.
Emily?
I just want to say thanks to Penmar Board of Realtors for their breakfast that they had this morning, to talk to city staff and some of us and share with us their vision, and then also how they can partner with us. It's always nice to learn about the partnership opportunities that we have out there, and hopefully we will develop a good working relationship going forward.
Wait, I changed my mind. I have something. The Mummers Day Parade is this Saturday, rain or shine. So 2 of the 5 council members will be in costume. You can make a guess as to who those 2 will be. So hopefully you'll be able to recognize us. So hopefully everyone comes out to the Mummers Day Parade. If it's raining, use your umbrellas. But it's such a great staple event for our community. It's really exciting. So
What
sorry.
are you guessing at?
You're going to have to figure out who we are, Lou.
Kristen?
I don't have anything.
I do have one thing, you know, constantly hear things about why people live in the county instead of the city, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry Chief Lohr had to leave. Last night, very close to Shelley and I's house, there was a fire. I can guarantee you that fire at Brookside Terrace last night, had it occurred anywhere but in the city of Hagerstown, that house would have been a total, complete loss instead of losing a garage. I was on the scene shortly after the first apparatus arrived. And, you know, when people buy homes, they never think their house is going to burn down. And they don't think about the ambulance call or the police call. But I can assure you, if you live in the city and you need to dial 911, you're going to be a whole lot happier than if you live out in the county, especially with fire and police. Having said that, city administrator comments.
My comment was going to be about the Mummers Parade, so there we go, so we're good, that's all.
One other, while we're at it, I am assuming I see on one of the social media posts, people were inquiring about Halloween. I'm assuming it is going to be on the 31st.
31st from 6 to 8, yes, sir.
6 to 8 on the 31st is Halloween. Okay. Now I think we can move on? Okay, now we'll try the minutes.
Mr. Mayor, move for approval of minutes as presented for the mayor and council meetings held September 11th, September 18th, and September 25th, 2018.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move that all the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed 3-0. Unfinished business, approval of an ordinance, smoking changes.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for the approval of an ordinance prohibiting all tobacco products, vaping, electronic cigarettes, and/or the ingestion of vaporized or inhaled aerosol products in all parks of the city of Hagerstown, except for designated areas of the municipal stadium and the greens at Hamilton Run.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
3-0. Prohibiting soliciting in parks.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for the approval of an ordinance to amend the City of Hagerstown Code, Chapter 173, to prohibit the sale of goods and services in the parks of the city unless part of an approved concession lease or city-approved special event.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
3-0. Prohibiting soliciting in parks, the next one, I think there's another one, right? Or did I just pass it?
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for the approval of an ordinance to amend the code of the city of Hagerstown, chapter 173-26, to prohibit solicitation of the parks of the city.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Amend new business, amending section 173-5.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for the mayor and city council to introduce the attached ordinance to amend the code of the city of Hagerstown, section 173-5, entitled Public Exhibitions at Dangerous Elevations. The amendment will enable the mayor and council to grant an exception to the prohibition against being engaged or concerned in any show or public exhibition by ropes, chains, or apparatus suspended at dangerous elevation above the ground, subject to such restrictions and conditions as the mayor and council may impose.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
3-0. This is why I wanted to be mayor tonight. Approval of the drinking water bond.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the approval of the resolution providing for the sale, issuance, and delivery by the city of Hagerstown to Maryland Water Quality Financing Administration, MWQFA, of the city Drinking Water Bond Series 2018A, the Series 2018A bond, and the original principal amount of $765,960, and Drinking Water Bond Series 2018B, the Series 2018B bond, and the original principal amount of $255,320, or such lesser amount or amounts as shall be determined by city officials as necessary prior to issuance in order to finance, reimburse, or refinance costs of the project referenced in topic above. The resolution provides that the Series 2018A bond shall have scheduled principal installments due on February 1 in the years 2020 to 2039, inclusive, and shall bear interest at the rate equal to 25% of the average of the bond buyer 11-bond index for the month prior to the month of delivery. NWQFA may round down the resulting rate. There is no scheduled amortization for the Series 2018B bond. The resolution provides that so long as the city does not default under the loan agreement corresponding to the Series 2018B bond, that bond will be deemed terminated and canceled 10 years after the date of its delivery. But if the city defaults in such 10-year period, MWQFA may demand immediate repayment of such bond with interest at a rate equal to 100% of the average of the bond buyer 11-bond index for the month prior to the month of delivery. MWQFA may round down to the resulting rate. The amortization schedule for the Series 2018A bond is based on identified expected delivery and projected completion dates, and the resolution provides the bonds may have other terms and the circumstances provided for in the resolution. The Series 2018A bond is subject to mandatory prepayment in accordance with EPA regulations. The Series 2018A bond may be prepaid at the city's option only with the agreement of the director of MWQFA. The resolution approves the substantially final forms of 2 loan agreements to be entered into by the city with MWQFA. The resolution pledges the city's full faith and credit and unlimited taxing power to payment of the bonds, provides that debt service shall be payable in the first instance from water supply system revenues, and acknowledges the pledge of monies that the city is entitled to receive from the state of Maryland as security for the 2 bonds. The resolution fixes or provides for other details relating to the bonds. Closing on the 2 bonds shall take place on October 31st, 2018, unless city officials and MWQFA agrees otherwise. If the bonds are delivered in October 2018 as expected, the interest rate on the Series 2018A bond is 0.80%, and the default rate for both bonds is 3.56%.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Grant agreement with Maryland DOT.
Mr. Mayor, hereby move to authorize the city to enter into a grant agreement for a Maryland Bikeways grant with the Maryland Department of Transportation. The grant is $48,000 and has a $2,000 match and will continue bicycling-related improvements in the city.
Second.
Discussion? I can only say kudos to Rodney and staff and the Bicycle Advisory Committee, who continues to do nothing but bring money into our community. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Amendments to incentive program.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for the mayor and city council to approve the following changes to the guideline documents for the following incentive programs: Partners in Economic Progress, the PET program, modification of the Partners in Economic Progress program area to be the City Center Mixed Use, the CCMU zoning district. Add the attached list of business categories as eligible for the rent assistance incentive, except as prohibited by state and federal guidelines associated with grant funding. Retail and Restaurant Incentive Program, increase the amount of the grant an applicant can apply for to $8,000. Allow exceptions where the awarded grant amount can exceed $8,000 on a case-by-case basis.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Approval of Community Coalition Lobbyist Funding.
Mr. Mayor, we move for the mayor and council authorization of the expenditure of $5,000 from the general fund in order to contribute toward hiring John Favazza with the firm of Manis, Canning, and Associates as the Community Coalition lobbyist. Other committed partners include the Washington County Commissioners, Hagerstown Community College, Washington County Library System, Town of Williamsport, Visit Hagerstown, Washington County Chamber of Commerce, Chief, Washington County Industrial Foundation, and Greater Hagerstown Committee.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have one quick question. Was this in our budget, this line item?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just questioning.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Approval of funding for municipal stadium improvements.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for the mayor and city council to approve the attached investment Hagerstown City Center redevelopment grant application for the renovation project at 54 South Potomac Street. The total project cost is $2,107,125. The Invest Hagerstown redevelopment grant amount is $250,000. Specifically, this grant application and related development plan meets the city's vision for the redevelopment of the city center and in compliance with the program guidelines. Staff are authorized to issue a letter of commitment in the amount of $250,000. No funds will be dispersed until staff has verified that all work in the development plan is completed to the city's satisfaction and that a full account detailing the total project cost expenditure requirements have been met. Funding for this grant will come from the Invest Hagerstown line item in fiscal year 2019 general fund with a project completion deadline of December 31st, 2019.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Now we'll do the municipal stadium improvement funding.
Oh, I did?
Yes.
Consistent with the terms of the lease and amendments, I hereby move for the approval of $35,000 for improvements at Municipal Stadium as follows: replace vertical net behind home plate, replace carpet and clubhouse, replace field fence, upgrade electric and laundry room to 220 volt, for new industrial clothes dryers, replace HVAC and team store, replace roof as determined by staff up to $6,000, replace bode boards and picnic table as determined by staff. Authorize staff to complete the work prior to the start of the 2019 Hagerstown Suns baseball season. Funding for the project is from rent paid by the Suns. I further move to approve an emergency purchase of $15,247.55 to ServPro to clean and repair water damage after the August 21st flood event. Funding will be taken from the stadium operating budget.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
3-0. Approval of Invest Hagerstown application for 21 West Franklin.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for the mayor and city council to approve the attached Invest Hagerstown City Center redevelopment grant application for the renovation project at 21 West Franklin Street. The total project cost is $632,600. The Invest Hagerstown redevelopment grant amount is $100,000. Specifically, this grant application and related development plan meets the city's vision for the redevelopment of the city center and is in compliance with the program guidelines. Staff are authorized to issue a letter of commitment in the amount of $100,000. No funds will be dispersed until staff has verified that all work in the development plan is completed to the city's satisfaction and that a full account detailing the total project cost expenditure requirements have been met. Funding for this grant will come from the Invest Hagerstown line item in the fiscal year 2019 general fund with a project completion deadline of December 31st, 2019.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
3-0. Approval of Center Grove wastewater project.
Mr. Mayor, we move for the mayor and city council approve the funding of the Centegro wastewater treatment plant Phase 1B sludge thickening and Phase 2 dryer rebuild projects. Wastewater CIP 54-0712 will be utilized to fund the amount of $3.25 million for the remainder of fiscal year 2019.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
3-0. And lastly, approval of City Center holiday parking program.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for the mayor and city and council to approve the city center holiday parking program that allows for free parking each weekend commencing at 5 p.m. Friday evenings and all day Saturday and Sunday in the University District parking deck and Arts Entertainment District parking deck beginning Friday, November 16th, 2018 through Sunday, December 30th, 2018. Additionally, free parking will be extended through Monday, December 31st, 2018 and Tuesday, January 1st, 2019. Normal parking operations will resume on Wednesday, January 2nd, 2019. Parking at the street meters and parking lot meters will continue to be free after 5 p.m. weekdays and all day Saturday and Sunday as it normally is throughout the year.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 3-0. We're adjourned, and let the mayor know how fast we can actually get meetings done when he's not here.